Am I the a-hole for ordering pizza at my friend's wedding because there was no food? Me and my wife were invited to my friend's wedding. The wedding was going to have about 70 people, with mostly family. When we got there, we were seated at a table, with some other people. Nice people, and we mingled well and had a good time chatting. The wedding was also quite nice. Both my friend and his new wife were very happy. After the ceremony, every table got 2 bottles of wine, bread, and butter, and there also was an open bar, so we started to have a few drinks. Then the food came out. It looked really good. The food was set up for buffet. I was half buzzed and looking forward to getting some food in my belly. When it was time to eat every few tables at a time, we're going to get called, which is fine. The first few tables that were called were understandably the family of both sides, then the rest were called. The problem was that the family members, his in-laws, are larger people. Now I don't shame people for how much they eat, but I noticed the helpings of food they had while I was patiently waiting for us to be called. I also noticed that they went for seconds before all the tables were called and no one stopped them. I didn't say anything, though I thought that was rude. I just assumed that there was just a lot of food. To my surprise, by the time we were called, there was nothing left. I asked if there was more coming out, and apparently that had already happened. So we grabbed the little we could and went back to sit down and ate the scarps. We were all still pretty hungry, and a bit pissed off, so we kind of talked that the first few tables ate all the food. Someone mentioned that they could go for some pizza, and then I had the drunken idea of ordering some LOL. So that is what we did. We all pitched in and ordered 4 large pizzas and some chicken wings from a local pizza joint close to the venue, so it didn't take long to be delivered. I met the guy outside and brought the food to our table, and we started to eat. Some of the other tables noticed and asked where the pizza came from. Apparently, some of the other tables close to ours didn't get any food either, so we shared with them. This caused some commotion because other people were looking for and asking the wedding party if there was pizza available. I guess there were others that didn't get to eat either. We did share with anyone who asked us. My friend came to talk to me about why I ordered the food. His bride was not happy about it. It ruined the aesthetics. So I told him that we didn't get to eat and that the food ran out long before our table was called and we were really hungry. He then asked why we didn't just step out and eat then. Come back. Although annoyed about that, I respectively explained to him that we were all drinking on an empty stomach and that it probably wasn't the best idea to have drunk people walking around looking for food. I don't think he liked that, but went back to his bride who was glaring at us. Like, what were we supposed to do, starve? This wasn't the end, though. As we were finishing eating, one of the in-laws came to our table and he asked where the pizza came from. This is where I may be the a-hole. There were 2 slices left. I knew he was eyeing them. I asked the other people at my table if they wanted one. Everyone declined. This guy then said he'd have one. I then took the 2 slices, I put them on my plate, and started to eat them, then looked at him and said something like, "No, you and everyone at your tables had way more than your fair share of the buffet and ate all of it. This is the reason we ordered food in the first place, and now you have the nerve to ask us to share." His face went red, and he returned to his table. There was a lot of discussion going on there. They were all looking back at us, with daggers. The bride looked even more ticked off at us. She had a bit of an argument with my friend. He eventually came back to tell us we had to leave. I didn't mean to start any problems, so me and my wife called a cab and left. He called me a few days later and we had a long talk. I explained my perspective, and he agreed that his in-laws were really rude for eating all the food and leaving most of the other guests with very little. A lot of people actually complained to him about it. Everyone was drinking thinking that there would be food, and they were disappointed. He was upset with his in-laws because he told them how many guests there would be and to order the food for that many people. He also saw how much they were taking but assumed they ordered enough. He was wrong. He brought this up with his wife, and she said that apparently because the in-laws paid for the alcohol and the food, they felt entitled to eat what they wanted. She was really mad at them and reamed them out for tainting her special day. He also said a lot of the other non-family guests started to leave soon after we left because they too were hungry. They still had fun celebrating, but it did kind of put a downer on their special day. Out of 70 people, about 30 left. I also found out that guy that came to our table was his father-in-law. He was really embarrassed by what I said to him. He felt pretty bad when he found out close to half the guests didn't get to eat anything and left early. So am I the a-hole? Edit. My goodness, I didn't think I was going to get this kind of response, lol. So many comments. I went through a good chunk of the messages and thought that it would be easier to address the common ones here. The only reason I ordered the pizzas was because I was drinking. All I ate that day was a sandwich for lunch and some bread that was at the table, so I needed something more substantial in my stomach so I wouldn't get sick. So no, I couldn't wait it out a few hours. I wasn't the only person drinking either, because the open bar was booming. However, I guess I could have held back on drinking a bit until the food came out. Those saying that I fat shamed the father-in-law. I am going to have to disagree. I didn't say anything to him about his body. I was only honest with him about why I had to order the food. I don't judge people based on looks, and accept everyone for who they are, as they are. You can't judge a book by its cover, so I judge people based on their actions. If you knew me, you would see that my friends group ranges from basic people to freaks and weirdos, lol. In fact, a good friend of mine nicknamed Crusher is a big dude, absolutely hilarious and super fun to hang out with. This is not an AI-generated post, lol. My intelligence may be limited, but there is nothing artificial about it. The buffet was at my friend's request. He loves buffets, and this was his added touch to the wedding. He also chose the dishes. I know that it is not common for weddings to do buffets, but that's what he wanted. Thanks everyone for your comments. I will continue to read them and update this thread accordingly. Update. Hey guys! I already have an update. First, I never stated when the wedding happened. The wedding was last week on July 20th. My friend just stopped by for a little bit. Apparently his wife was more upset than he initially said, but not at me, towards her family. He also said she wanted apologies for booting me. So father-in-law feels really bad, and he is going to step up and try to fix the situation. He's going to throw an after-wedding shingding, lol his words. Everyone who was at the wedding will be invited, including me, my wife, and some additional people. They are thinking there will be about 100 guests. Father-in-law also promised that there will be an assortment of food, more than enough for everyone plus an army, lol. He also wanted to personally let me know that there will be 50 large pizzas from the same joint I ordered from. That is his way of adding some humor to the situation. I think it's pretty funny, lol. He's also going to hire a DJ or a live band. Possibly have some fireworks and arrange other events like axe throwing and a bonfire. This actually sounds like it going to a real fun time. The only difference is that this will be a bring-your-own-bottle event, which is no big deal. Father-in-law is pulling in a favor from a friend of his who owns a farm. The farm has 2 guest houses and the main house, as well as plenty of space outside. About 50 people can be squeezed in between the 3 houses, so he is going to encourage people to bring RVs. I have one. Campers and tents if they can. Nothing is official yet, but they are looking to hold the shingding around mid-August. Sounds like this is going to be a blast.
Next story.
Am I the a-hole for canceling the catering for a wedding in 2 weeks because the bride accused me of flirting with her fiancé? Most of our communications has been through emails, but we have met 2 times, once with their wedding coordinator and one just with the couple. The second time, she got very upset and said, "Enough. You are being way too cutesy and flirty with my fiancé. Stop it now. We are getting married. Get your desperate hands off my fiancé. How would you like it if I put this in your reviews?" I was shocked because I almost only talked to the woman because of my experience with weddings. It is the woman who is in charge and you need to please. Her fiancé wasn't flirtatious either. Not with me anyway. But he did give me many compliments on the menu, like, "Do? Isn't that good?" And apparently he laughed too hard at my jokes, because when he tried to calm her down, she told him he was giggling like a P-word at my lame jokes, and why not just F her already? Then she turned to me and called me a pathetic cow and to get my own man. I told both to leave, and then I returned their deposit. She started bombarding me with emails and messages because she can't find new catering this fast. P.S. I will be paying my employees who booked that day for this gig as usual, of course, but I'd rather take the loss than work with her.
Next story.
Am I the a-hole for leaving my sister's wedding early after her maid of honor humiliated me in her speech? I, 27 female, was a bridesmaid at my older sister's wedding last week. The wedding was beautiful, and everything seemed perfect until the AITA reception. During the reception, the maid of honor, who has been my sister's best friend since childhood, gave her speech. It was emotional and all, but then she made a joke about how I was the family screw-up who finally managed to do something right by not messing up my bridesmaid duties. Everyone laughed, but I didn't find it funny. For context, I've had a rough few years. I struggled with my mental health and dropped out of college for a while. I've since gotten my life back on track, but it's still a sensitive topic for me. Hearing that joke in front of all our family and friends wasn't funny at all. My sister's best friend and I never really got along, but still, I never expected something like this from her. Especially the day wasn't about me at all. Then why bring me up in the speech? I tried to stay composed, but I felt the tears coming, so I quietly left the reception and went outside to collect myself. My sister followed me out and asked what was wrong. When I told her, she said it was just a joke and she meant nothing bad. I tried to go back inside, but I just couldn't, and I ended up leaving the wedding early. My parents understand why I was upset, but my sister is angry with me. I do feel terrible for leaving, but I also feel like I had the right to feel hurt and humiliated. Edit. I said nothing at the moment because I didn't want to cause a scene on my sister's special day. And I can't reason with her right now because she will just ask me if I haven't been taking my meds lately. That's what she does when she's angry with me. So I'm giving her some time to maybe realize how her best friend's joke was out of line. Edit. 2. Someone asked me if my sister's best friend and I argued before, or did I give her a reason to do this? My sister's best friend and I never went past saying hi. She told me before, a few years ago, that she, in general, doesn't feel comfortable around someone struggling mentally because in her head, God only knows what they're capable of. Since she said this, to this day, I just try to avoid her. Update. Hi. Thanks to everyone who took the time to comment on my post and gave their opinion and advice without being too harsh. I apologize if my update is messy or confusing. I'll try to cover everything, but I don't know when to add context for clarification. If you think there's any missing info, some parts are confusing, let me know. The same day I posted, my dad called to check up on me and see if my sister and I had talked things out. When I told him no, he said it's better if we talk about it now and assured me that I have nothing to apologize for. If my sister thinks she has nothing to apologize for then, the least she can do is make her best friend apologize or fully realize that the joke was out of line. By the way, my brother and I met 4 days ago, and he told me that brother-in-law, my sister's husband, didn't like the way the maid of honor called me a screw-up in front of everyone, and some of those who laughed voiced later that they did so out of nervousness. On Monday, my sister called me to talk. When I made it to her place, her best friend was on the phone and didn't put it down for a second. My sister started by saying that just a few years ago, I would have laughed hard and not taken the joke as an insult. I told her maybe some laughed because they don't know the reason she called me a screw-up. For context. When I was 16, something happened, and that's why I struggled mentally really badly between 16 to 18. When I was 17, I was diagnosed with PTSD, and later with depression and anxiety. Since then, I don't like it when someone touches my head, especially my hair and the back of my head and neck. My sister knows everything. During our conversation, my sister did most of the talking. At some point, I felt like my sister had called me just to blame me again, without trying to understand my perspective. When I tried to talk, she put her hand on the back of my neck and pulled me toward her with each sentence as if to say, "Do you understand?" Or, "Okay?" I hated it and felt irritated. I honestly kept thinking if I pushed her away, would I be in the wrong? Would they just call me mental and tell my family I got physical? I tried to leave, but she insisted that no one was leaving until we sort this out. She told her best friend to just apologize. She refused and reminded my sister that I was the reason her husband got angry at her on their wedding day because I couldn't take a joke, and when I tried to explain why, she said, "Yeah, whatever, sorry." I had told her if she had focused her speech on the bridegroom, then maybe he wouldn't have had a reason to be angry. She refused to listen and brushed my words off. I was glad it was finally over, and as I was about to leave, I heard her say, "Can't take a joke that everyone knows is true." Both of them laughed, but my sister stopped mid-laugh and apologized. I didn't say anything and left. I think I've had enough. I mean, I know I've had a few rough years. I dropped out of college for a while, fine. But I've since gotten my life back on track. My parents helped me through it all and never made me feel like a burden. At first, I was on some strong meds that made me feel tired, sleepy most of the time. After a while, I started to feel a little better with therapy and my family's support. During that period, it was me, my parents, and my brother. My sister was 3 hours away for a job and used to visit sometimes, and would often bring her best friend along with her. Looking back, I don't want to say she hates me, but I know she felt ashamed to have a family member struggling with mental health issues. I don't know how to explain this. I've made up my mind and decided to go no contact. For now. If my parents and my brother who were there when I was going through it all never made me feel that they're ashamed of me, then why would she? I'm still on some meds, but feel much better than before. I have a stable job, my own place, and friends who love me for who I am. I can say I'm proud of myself a little. I love my family to death and tried to maintain a relationship with my sister all these years, but I'm trying to improve myself and don't want to be constantly reminded of what I was a few years ago.
Next story.
Boyfriend is going on a bachelorette trip with all females. So, my boyfriend has a female best friend. She recently asked him to be in her wedding as the man of honor. She also has a maid of honor. One of my best friends is also male. Both of us are okay with having friends of the opposite sex, but I don't text my male friend daily and talk to him all day. We check in on occasion, hang out on occasion, and I typically always try to include my BF in the hangouts. My boyfriend goes out to drinks with his female friend, AITA, and never invites me. Now he's invited on a bachelorette trip. Weekend getaway with a house full of females and drinking. This makes me extremely uncomfortable, and I've mentioned that. Not to mention, I've never ever had any romantic feelings towards my male friend. He admitted to having feelings for his best friend in the past. He brushes it off and acts like I'm overreacting. If I went on a bachelor trip with a bunch of guys for a weekend, pretty sure he wouldn't be cool with it at all. Edit. Ladies. And gentlemen, by all means, I appreciate both takes. Am I just being insecure, or would you not be okay with this either? Update 1. The battery was dead in his vehicle when he tried to leave yesterday. Then he got a flat tire right before he got home. Karma got him for something. Okay, I know this isn't the update you want, but it's hilarious. And yes, I'm an asshole for saying that. We'll try to actually update soon. Update 2, we got a chance to talk in depth. He actually made me feel really good about everything. Calmed my fears. Told me he actually got drunk and cried to all of the girls about how much he loved me, etc. Bought me a cute little shirt. All good, right? Wrong. There is a plot twist. I find out a day later that the bride's fiancé showed up unannounced to the cabin. There was no bachelorette trip. It was literally just the two of them. Needless to say, I'm single. No idea if the wedding is still on. I've blocked everyone. My ex-BF was supposed to be in the wedding. So WTF. What the actual F, y'all? Sounds like his life is currently imploding though, so I'm just gonna let karma keep sorting this out. Think he lost his job because he couldn't show up due to his truck issues and is probably going to have to move in with his mom. We had initially been talking about him moving in with me, and this is all in the last week. Amen.
Next story.
Am I the a-hole for wearing a white dress to a wedding after being specifically requested to by the bride? OMG. My head is such a jumble right now. Let me try to make sense of all of this. When I 26 female was 5, we moved, and our next door neighbors had a girl my age named Bella, 27 female. We immediately connected and grew up thick as thieves. Our families were also close. I moved a couple of hours away for college while Bella stayed home. She would come visit me frequently, stay with me, and we had great times. I met Barrett, 26 male now, in an econ class sophomore year and realized we had a lot of friends in common. He was a smart, attractive guy, so we ended up hooking up a few times after study sessions. It was fun, but there wasn't really long-term chemistry, so we remained friends. We never even talked about dating. We weren't close after that, but we were on group text threads together and saw each other frequently at parties. I introduced Bella to Barrett at a party senior year, and it was love at first sight for her. She interrogated me about him, and I informed her of our history. She seemed pretty upset about the fact that we had hooked up, but I assured her that there was absolutely nothing romantic there, and that she had my blessing to pursue him. She did, and after a few months, they started officially dating. She was over the moon. I was happy she was happy. I graduated and accepted a job 6 hours away from home. Shortly afterwards, Bella and Barrett ended up moving in together in my hometown. I visited them frequently at first. But life got busy, so we ended up seeing each other annually at holidays. Last Christmas, my family hosted a Christmas Eve party with our two families at which Barrett proposed to Bella. It was a heartfelt proposal, and everybody was thrilled for them. Bella wanted to talk about nothing but wedding planning that holiday, and we had tons of fun brainstorming ideas together. There were no signs of what was to come. Over the next few months, I expected to be formally asked to be Bella's maid of honor. She had mentioned this over the holidays, but the ask never came. She started screening my calls. Finally, I received a save the date in the mail and still hadn't heard from her about whether I was in the wedding, so I got her on the phone and asked her. She told me that she had thought it through and didn't think that I should be in the wedding at all because I lived so far away. She thought it would make coordinating bridal events too difficult. She was making her cousin, who she doesn't even like, her maid of honor. I was pretty hurt by this. I was her closest and oldest friend. I introduced her to her fiancé and was friends with him too. I told her that I could get the time off work, would buy plane tickets, whatever was required of me, to participate. That I didn't think that it was going to be as challenging as she thought. She shrugged this off. Instead, she directed the conversation to whether I was going to be bringing someone to the wedding. I was a little confused by this question because I just had a bad breakup and she knew all about what went down. I told her that since I wasn't seeing anybody currently, I'd probably be attending solo. She told me that she would keep my +1 open until the last possible minute and encouraged me to try to find a date so I wouldn't be lonely. I thought this was a nice gesture, but reassured her that with my family present and tons of mutual friends from college and our hometown, that I would be fine. The next few months passed without much incident. I didn't hear a ton from Bella. I probably could have reached out more, but I was still stinging a bit from not being asked to be in her wedding party. I also saw on social media that she had an engagement party that she had not told me about or invited me to. That also hurt. But I didn't say anything. I figured we were just growing apart. It happens. Then 6 weeks prior to the wedding, I got a call from Bella. She told me that one of her bridesmaids had dropped out and that she was hoping that I could fill in. I wouldn't be going to any of the events as those were already booked, but I would be in the wedding party. I was thrilled and relieved and accepted immediately. She told me that she was doing a reverse color palette for the bridal party, where all of the bridesmaids and groomsmen were wearing white, and she and the groom were wearing black. This didn't seem that strange. Bella has always liked to stand out and has unconventional taste. She apologized for the late notice and asked if I could find a white dress in time. I had a white slip dress already that would work and sent her a picture of it on the call to see if it would work. She verbally approved it and tagged it with a thumbs up on the text chain. This will be important later. The wedding was at noon, so we were supposed to meet to do hair and makeup at the venue at 8 a.m. I left my parents' home early and arrived in sweats with my dress in a bag and greeted Bella and the other girls. We had fun drinking champagne and getting ready. About 2 hours prior to the ceremony, Bella told everybody to get our dresses on so we could do some pictures. I grabbed my bag and went into the bathroom to change and tweak my makeup. When I re-entered the room, every last bridesmaid was in a blue dress. I was the only one in white. My stomach dropped. My mind raced back to the conversation I had with Bella. She had said white, right? I hadn't misheard? No, I was certain. She had called out the reverse color scheme. I had Googled it. No, this was a setup. Bella was in the middle of the room, in a bathrobe with a resigned look on her face. She said to her cousin, "I told you she was going to do something like this." Her cousin approached me and asked what I was wearing. I mumbled that Bella had told me to wear white. Bella didn't even blink. She stared back and huffed out a laugh and said something about how, of course, I would have to make today all about me. The cousin started screaming at me, going off on me about how I was jealous, in love with Barrett, and how completely unhinged I was. Honestly, I froze in that moment. I was so spun around by how fast everything went from great to shit, I couldn't even find the words to defend myself. Eventually, I stammered out that I had another dress at my parents' house and could go home and change. Bella said something, like, "I think we both know that this is the end of our friendship. I've given you too many chances, it's time for you to go." I started to cry. I didn't really know what was happening or what she was talking about, but I knew that whatever was going down was really bad. Finally, my legs started to work again, and I fled. I left all of my things at the venue and just ran to my car and went home, sobbing in the white dress. About a half hour later, my phone blew up. Texts from nearly everyone in my life, telling me that I was bitter, that I was a whore, that I needed to grow up and get over my jealousy, asking how I could do that to Bella. Even my mother sent me a text telling me how disappointed she was in me and that we'd talk when they got home. I did what any rational person would do in the situation. I broke into my parents' liquor cabinet and got drunk. As a result, the conversation when my parents finally arrived home was somewhat confused. My dad wouldn't even look at me, and my mom and I kept talking past each other. She outright didn't. Believed that I had been told to wear white, and I didn't understand why. Then finally she said something like, because of everything else that happened, and I was like, what are you talking about? What does that mean? And she said, your ultimatums to Bella. The next few hours revealed the truth. Over the last several months, Bella has been building a fiction with nearly everyone in my life that I am mentally unstable and madly in love with Barrett. She has concocted a web of outlandish tales and systematically poisoned my family and friends against me. My boyfriend apparently dumped me because of my feelings for Barrett, which was a lie. He cheated and I dumped him. I told Bella that she needs to choose between me and Barrett. This never happened. I told Bella that I couldn't be in the wedding party because I couldn't support her marriage given that Barrett was meant for me. Another lie. I had a major meltdown before the engagement party, and that's why I wasn't there. On and on, lies on top of lies. In all of these stories, Bella has painted herself as the patient, long-suffering friend trying to deal with a friend, clearly going through a tough time. She expressed understanding for my unrequited love for Barrett and empathized with how hard it must be for me to see her marry the love of my life, and has made great efforts to try to sustain our friendship despite how complicated the situation is. The lie has been going on so long, my mom literally did not believe me. Finally, I grabbed my phone and handed it to her and told her to go through my text messages with Bella. Asked her to show me any evidence of any of that happening. It was when she was scrolling through reading our messages that she saw the picture of the white dress I had sent Bella with her thumbs up on it. I had completely forgotten about it. The absence of any ultimatums or Barrett drama in our texts and the picture of the approved dress flipped my mom. She finally believed me. She was horrified that she had bought into a false narrative. She called my dad into the room and explained what was what. My dad isn't the type of person you want to piss off. We had to spend significant energy trying to calm him down so he didn't walk next door and rip the house from the foundation. My mom still says that I'm a bit of an asshole because I should never have assumed that I could wear white to someone's wedding. I should have confirmed with the other bridesmaids about what they were wearing, and that was part of my job as a member of the bridal party. Fine, I own that. But it doesn't change the fact that I never meant to hurt Bella, and she has been setting me up for this epic fall for months. The next day, hungover on multiple levels, I sent screen caps of my call, history with Bella, and the photo of the approved dress text to multiple people. Unfortunately, this is where my occupation works against me. I am a graphic designer, and people believe that I photoshopped the image. Trust me, if I was going to Photoshop some proof, it would have been a hell of a lot more compelling than somebody liking an image. So pretty much nobody believes me except my mom, dad, and one of the other bridesmaids, one of Bella's friends from college I don't know well. She was there during the dress incident, and she found me on social media and DM'd me that she could tell from the stunned look on my face that I was telling the truth. She said that Bella had a pretty bad case of COVID at the beginning of the year, and ever since then she had changed as a person, becoming cruel and self-absorbed. She said the wedding events had been horrific, and Bella was a monster, and she was planning on going no contact now that it was done. So that's 3 people out of hundreds that don't think I'm an asshole. Everybody else does. My reputation is destroyed. My life in tatters. I don't think I'm the a-hole, but I submit myself to Reddit's judgment. Update, I've gone back and forth about updating my post. If you read my update, hopefully you'll understand why. For safety reasons, this will likely be my one and only update. For those of you bitching about length, I included a TLDR at the end. Before I get started, I want to address a question a lot of commenters had about my parents. A lot of people were questioning why my mom would hear all of that stuff about me and not check in on me or confront me. It's because I'm an apostate. Last year, I left the religion my parents raised me in, which Bella is still involved in, so she has superior credibility. My politics differ also. From where mom and dad sat, I was a sinner capable of any act of evil because I turned my back on biblical principles. Assume that the broader religious community in this town believes the same of me. Despite this, I tried to have a relationship with my parents. I am an only child. They are my only family. But there was strain and distance there. For example, I did not tell my parents a lot about my breakup because the circumstances of that would reinforce some of my parents' worst beliefs about me. It's also the reason I haven't been home in the last year. It's also one of the reasons I assumed things were strained between Bella and I in the last year. I didn't bring it up because, as everybody wanted to point out, my post was already too damn long, and this one will be too. Sorry. I would have guessed that the events of the wedding would strain my relationship with my parents further, but unexpectedly, it has brought us closer. I think many of my parents' strong opinions of me were more about how they felt my leaving the church would ultimately reflect on them in the community. But now that the community has rallied against me and the worst has happened, they've circled the herd. They've waged holy war in their church on my behalf in the last couple of months. It's weirdly cemented that my parents actually do care about me, despite our differences as people. So in that regard, this awful event has been a blessing. A lot of the awkwardness between us from the last year has faded, and it really feels like they've chosen a side and that side is me. We had a great holiday together, so in that way, I'm glad this happened. On to the update. In the immediate aftermath of the wedding and post, I did as people suggested and sent out a screen recording of my text messages with Bella, all of them going back months to counter her narrative that I was unstable, and explaining my side of the story. There were 3 camps that emerged as a result. First were my high school friends. Most of them are religious and had been extensively brainwashed by Bella. None took my side, except for the one bridesmaid who had already contacted me. Next were the college friends closer to me. None of them had heard Bella's whisper campaign and accepted the evidence immediately. Several of them told me that they had never really liked Bella and that she had shit-talked me behind my back. This was news to me, but also a relief because these are the relationships I don't want to lose. And it looks like I won't. The college friends who were closer to Barrett just didn't really care. A lot of these guys are classic dude bros that are drama adverse, so I'm not shocked they aren't relishing the chance to wade through and litigate the evidence. No hostility coming from these people anymore, but no support either. I can live with that. I have given up on Bella's nuclear and extended family. When I was back for Christmas, I tried to go over to speak to Bella's parents, who were like parents to me also, and they refused to even open the door. I left a letter in their mailbox. It went unacknowledged. In general, things settled down into a new normal, and I just focused on my life and my work and trying to move forward. I went home for the holidays and just hung out with my parents. Life was okay. Then January 1st, I signed into an older email account that I haven't used in a while to reset a password. In the spirit of New Year digital housekeeping, I started going through old messages, intending to close this account for good, when I saw an email from my ex with the subject line, "I win." I cannot describe the gut punch that I felt when I saw that mail. I freeze up now just writing about it. My ex, let's call him Matthew, was the perfect boyfriend. Until he wasn't. He became extremely controlling after our first year of dating. He wanted to control what I wore, what I ate, who I talked to, who I connected with, and what I posted on social media, etc. He was very cunning and nuanced with the way he tore me down slowly over time. But then he slipped up, I found out he was cheating, and I woke up enough to get out of there. The breakup was a living nightmare. He refused to allow me to break up with him. We were living together. He installed tracking software on my phone and bugged my car. He had people at my job reporting to him on my movements. I couldn't get away from him. I couldn't hide. He kept showing up. He held my dog hostage. The police were useless because he was never physically violent and was careful not to write his threats down. I was in absolute hell for months, living under the terror that he would show up again. I had changed my job, my number, my address, my email account, my social media profiles were private. This was the one place I forgot to block him. The I Wynn email was sent the day after the wedding. He said that he had become close with Bella after we broke up. He called himself the architect of my demise. He said he had fed Bella's paranoia about me and Barrett, and that together they had planned my punishment. He said losing everyone important in my life was what I deserved. And then he said, we should get back together. Unless I wanted more. Unfortunate things like this to keep happening. Yes, he a delusional prick. It took me a while to collect myself and get my shit together after reading that. I fell apart for a few days. My mom helped pull me back together and now knows the details about what happened with Matthew. She connected me with a family friend, an attorney, that is currently helping me file for a restraining order against Matthew. I tried during the stalking period, but couldn't afford an attorney and was denied. I think with the email evidence and the attorney saying things the right way, it will be granted this time, but the hearing is not for another couple of weeks. It is on Zoom, and Matthew will get a chance to be there. I am terrified to see him, even just on a screen. If you read this, Matthew, please realize that I am not so terrified that I won't tase the fuck out of you if you ever come near me again. Once I had dealt with my own safety, I had the realization that I was in possession of absolute proof that the wedding incident was a setup. I considered blasting it out everywhere, but I still have so much shame about being in an abusive relationship and cannot bring myself to do it. So I decided to just forward it to Barrett with a small amount of explanation. Barrett did not respond to the email. I do not know what happened in Bella and Barrett's household after that, but what I do know is that 2 nights later, Bella drunk drove her car to my parents' house. While attempting to park in their driveway, she ran over their mailbox. When my parents answered the door, she started screaming about how I'm a home-wrecking slut. In her drunken ramblings, my parents were able to figure out that Barrett had left her. Her parents were called over from next door to collect their drunk daughter. My dad said they seemed extremely embarrassed. I know a lot of people here will probably be fist-pumping the air that Bella met with some karma. I'm not one of them. Matthew is a monster, and I know firsthand how charming and convincing he is. Bella, much like I did, fell for his act. Her happiness has been destroyed by Matthew, too. And I have a really hard time blaming her now that I know that he was pulling the strings. But she also made her choices. I'm not dumb enough to reconcile with her either. My number one priority is my safety, and anybody who has ties to Matthew is somebody I need to stay far away from. Bella will have to find her own path back to good. There is a role that opened on my team in another country. It's a manager position, which would be a promotion for me, and my boss thinks I should apply. While it would be harder having even more distance from my folks, I think being in an entirely new country might help cultivate a feeling of safety for me, one that I'm not sure I can get in this city now, so that might be what's next for me. I don't really know how to end this properly. I'm just tired. Thanks for the support, Reddit. I probably won't sign into this account again. TL. DR. My abusive ex-boyfriend Matthew was feeding Bella's paranoia about Barrett and I. He was involved with planning my punishment with Bella. He sent me an email to an old account bragging about his victory in destroying my relationships and asking to get back together. I forwarded the email to Barrett. Barrett left. Bella drunk drove her car into my parents' mailbox. I am seeking a restraining order against my ex and am considering leaving the country.
That's all the stories for this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share with your friends. I'm a bit shy and prefer to stay behind the scenes, so I create these faceless Reddit story videos to bring you the best stories without stepping in front of the camera. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.